everyone. Welcome to the Blind Judgment Podcast. As always, I'm your host, Hugh, and I dive into some pretty wild true crime cases. I share these cases with my lovely co-host, Jay.
Thank you. What's up, everybody?
And he goes in completely blind. So how are you doing, Jay?
I am doing fantastic. You know,
Okay,
it's
good to hear.
middle of the work week, and so we're actually doing this episode over Zoom. But
We're
I'm
not.
happy.
We're kind
We're
of
not in
over
person.
Zoom.
Yeah, we're not in person, basically.
That is
and
true.
so-
Middle of the work week. It's a hump day.
But I'm excited
What is
that
a
we're
hump
still making it happen. So, but we do got to chop because the Spurs game is on in less than an hour. And I'm kind of like their biggest fan. So I do have to get to that at some point.
Yeah, go Spurs. Beat the Bucks.
Oh my
Give you
God.
Buck. No, give you Buck.
Okay. I said, let's stay on the tracks. Okay.
Okay, train back on the tracks.
No, I'm just kidding, but I appreciate the Go Spurs Go love.
Okay, so each episode kicks off with a bunch of photos or clues that tie into the case. And Jay here tries to connect the dots and figure out the story. Now, I've got some incredible news. Okay, are you ready?
I think so.
By popular demand, we have a new and improved method of presentation for these photos.
Oh my goodness.
Yes, the fans have spoken. It's actually like Michael, whoever Michael is,
Who's Michael?
this is for you. What?
Who's Michael?
In your voice message, when you said we should change it, you said Michael and his friends.
I
Michael's-
said my cool friends.
Oh, shit. Man, I've been motherfucking Michael this whole time. I'm like, who the fuck does Michael think
Yeah.
he is?
No,
Tell me how to run my podcast.
Now that you say that, I remember you texted me about Michael, and I'm like, who is she talking about? Well, now we know.
Fucking your friend Michael, apparently.
My cool friends. So you were motherfucking all of my cool friends? Damn.
No, I swear I wasn't. I wasn't, but I'm glad that we've got this new way. It's actually not a new way. It is the exact same method that you use to present your photos for the Friday the 13th special.
It's about time because you know what? I hated your
know.
photos. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh my gosh, secrets revealed.
No, this is good. I'm excited.
Yeah. Okay. So if you guys need a refresher, we have 3 categories of photos. One is where the crime took place, the murder weapon, and the perpetrator. And so within those categories, there are a series of pictures, and you have to pick which one you think goes with the story and kind of create something with that. So I sent you those pictures if you want to take a look at them and let me know what you think.
All right. Let me open up the file here. Okay. So the first one is the location category.
Can you describe the pictures?
Yes. So I have 4 photos. The first photo is of a parking garage. And the second photo looks like a swamp or a pond surrounded by a bunch of luscious green trees. Kind of looks like Louisiana. The third photo is of a small college. So we're looking at kind of one of the main buildings in the courtyard out in front of it, students walking around. And the final photo is of a highway, and it looks like maybe one of those interstates. So yeah, those are the 4 photos. So you want me to pick one, right?
You have to pick one.
Okay, I'm gonna go with location. It's weird that a highway would be a location. feel like we've done schools. I'm going to pick the swamp. Something about it just calling my name.
The swamp? Okay.
Yeah, the swamp.
You're locking that in for location.
Correcto mundo. Okay, moving on.
All right.
All right, next category is the weapon. So 4 photos again. The first one is of a pistol. The second picture is of water. It's a JPEG of water. And sorry. And the third picture is of a red minivan. Fourth photo is a hammer. Jeez. All right, so we have. All right, so obviously I picked the swamp, so it's easy to go with water. But are you trying to trick me, is what I'm thinking. I'm going to go with minivan.
With a minivan. Okay.
Yep, I'm locking it in.
And you're locking that in for weapon. Okay. And now the final one is the perpetrator.
Perpetrator. First photo, we have a couple laughing. It looks like they're at the beach, enjoying themselves, having a blast. Okay, that's the first picture.
So let me explain. With these photos of who the perpetrator could be, they are symbolic. So with the first photo that you described, they're in a relationship. So that's a person that they're in a romantic relationship with, and so on.
Got it. All right. So yeah, the first one is a relationship, a couple in a relationship. The second photo it's a family portrait. So a family. Third photo it looks like a professor or a teacher of some kind. And the fourth photo is of a woman being followed by a man in a hoodie. Okay, so I'm definitely thinking it's one of the first two. Somebody in a family or somebody in a relationship.
Okay.
So I'm going to say we've had some crimes dealing with relationships. I can't remember if we've had one where the perpetrator was a family member. So I'm thinking maybe that's what we're talking about today. So I'm going to pick the second photo. The perpetrator is somebody in the family or related to the victim.
Good. Okay. Awesome. Are you locking that in for the perpetrator?
Do you hear these applause?
Yes, I do.
That's how confident I am that I got a good story going.
And you should be. So you have selected a swamp. You've selected, what was the one for the minivan, you picked the minivan, right?
Yes.
And then you picked the family.
Correct.
Okay. Well, we will lock that in.
Okay.
And then we'll get into the story and then I'll grade you at the end. How about that?
That sounds good. Now, question, will I have an opportunity to change any of my answers as I learn more?
Yes, you can change one of your answers and I'll let you know when.
Cool.
Okay. So let's get into the story. I will say, I suspect this is one that you might know, just because was a pretty big case. But I'm actually kind of stoked. I hope you know this one so we can maybe kind of banter about it a little bit. But anyways, with that, let's get into it. I'm going to quit yapping.
All right, let's do it.
So today we're covering the case of Diane Schuler. Have you heard of that name? Are you familiar at all?
Never heard of her.
Okay. So you might not know by name, but perhaps this is one that you'll be familiar with as we go on.
Okay.
So Diane was born in Long Island, New York in the year 1973. She was the youngest child and only daughter to Warren and Eileen Hance. Now, when Diane was 9, her mom just kind of like up and left the family and completely cut contact with her children. And this was very traumatizing for Diane. It was very difficult for the family. But despite her mother's absence, Diane made it very clear that her true life goal was to be a mom and to be the best mom that she could possibly be. So, a little bit about Diane as a person. She's very neat, very organized, very meticulous about her grades in school and nearly every aspect of her life. She's also like really the glue that held her family together. She's the only girl in the house. And despite being the youngest, she was like a surrogate mother to her older brothers, and she's super duper close to them. She is like the rock that everybody depends on. However, she is kind of a little isolated, and she really keeps to herself. And it's probably because, she has to be that dependable person in her family. So after high school, Diane gets a business degree and she starts working for a telecom company called Cablevision. And while there, she works her way up to an executive position. She loves her job. She's very good at it. And by all accounts, she is a great boss and is very well liked by her employees. So in 2001, Diane marries her high school friend, Daniel Schuler, and they welcome 2 children, a daughter, Erin, and a son, Brian. And Diane is pretty much like a super mom. She is like the head of the PTO. She's super involved with her kids. She just really loves being a mom. She's super maternal. She's also kind of like a second mom to her brother Warren's 3 daughters. She's like super tight with her sister-in-law, who's Warren's wife. Her name's Jackie. And they are honestly like best friends.
She
Daniel and
sounds awesome.
Warren. Yeah, she's by all accounts, Diane is great. She's a fantastic person. And yeah, like Daniel and Warren are super close. So they together are like this extremely tight-knit little family. So where do you think this is going so far?
I don't know, but I like the positivity and how close they are. And so I'm kind of hyped about that, but I'm also a little depressed because your episodes kind of get a little dark.
Well, yeah, I mean,
So
it's a true crime podcast.
I
So
know, but I got a little swept
be
away with
prepared.
all the goodness you were laying out. So, that's where I'm at. Now I'm a little saddened that things are probably not going to end well for this amazing family. But,
Yeah.
I'm here to be entertained. So give me all you got.
Baby, buckle up. Also, I'm going to give you the opportunity to change one of your answers.
Okay. I'm actually feeling pretty good about my options right now.
You're not going to change? You're going to lean with it, rock with it?
Wait, what did I say for the weapon? The minivan?
You went with the van.
Man, that was a dumb choice, right? Like, how can you use a van as a weapon? Well, I'll tell you what I was thinking. I was thinking that somebody's going to drive a van full of people into a swamp.
Ooh.
So I'm going to not change anything.
All right. We're leaning with it and rocking with it.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Let's dive back into the story. So it's July 26th of 2009. Diane, Daniel, Warren, and Jackie, and the couple's children are wrapping up a camping trip at Diane and Daniel's campsite, which is near Hunter Lake Campground in the Catskill Mountains of New York. Now, this was a very frequent occurrence for this family. They had a camper and they rented a camping site like all summer long. It's not super far from their home, and this is something that they really love to do. So that morning, it's a Sunday morning, they're cleaning up and they're getting ready to head back home. Warren and Jackie need to get home early. They had something that was going on that evening. But their daughters, Katie, who was 8, Allison, who was 7, and Emma, who's 5, wanted to stay behind and keep playing with their cousins, Aaron and Brian. Brian was 5, Aaron's 2. So they decide that Warren and Jackie are going to drive Diane's Lexus sedan home. Daniel's going to drive the truck with the trailer with the camper. And Diane is going to drive Jackie's minivan with all 5 of the children back home.
Okay. I like where this is going.
So Diane leaves with the kids around 9:30 a.m. And before she leaves, she stops to chat with the person who worked at the campground, who claimed that everybody was in good spirits when they left. So as she makes her way back to their home in West Babylon, which is on Long Island. So as a sidebar, it's about a 90-minute drive from the campsite to their home. So it's not too terribly long, but Diane decides to stop off at a McDonald's to go get the kids some food, to get them some breakfast. So from there, she stops at a gas station in Liberty, which is not too far from the campsite. She goes in. She tries to purchase some over-the-counter pain relief, but the specific medication that she's looking for was not available at that location. So she didn't buy anything, and she just left. At 11:37 a.m., Diane calls her brother from her minivan, and he's like, where are you? Because keep in mind, it's like 11:30 now. It shouldn't take her that long to get back home.
Right.
And she tells him that she's stuck in Liberty, and she says that there's a whole bunch of traffic. And he's like, okay, well, keep us updated, and we'll see you whenever we get home. Yeah, so I'd like to note that there was no traffic that day. And witnesses reported seeing a red minivan circling the entrance and exit ramps of the highway. So essentially what they saw was the van was on the highway. They got off of the highway, circled around, and then got back on. And they continued to do that for some time. Additionally, a police report noted that around 11:45 a.m., witnesses saw a woman fitting Diane's description on the side of the road, hunched over with her hands on her knees, looking like she was about to vomit. And then she was spotted in that same position shortly after. What are you thinking?
I'm a little confused, or I guess like I don't know what could possibly be happening.
Like, what is going on here? It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
At around 12:45 p.m., Diane's cell phone rings again, and it's her brother Warren. And she tells him, she's like, okay, look, I am super disoriented. I can't see very well. I'm parked in like a pull-off area. I don't really know what to do. So he tells her, he's like, stay off the road. I'm going to get in the car and I'm going to drive up there to get you.
Okay.
However, at around 1 p.m., Jackie gets a call from Diane's cell phone. It's her oldest daughter. On the call, she can hear the other children screaming and crying in the background. And the oldest daughter says, "Mommy, there is something wrong with Aunt Diane. She's talking, but she's not making any sense." So obviously she's like, okay, let me talk to her. So she gets Diane on the phone, and Diane's like, "Oh, it's just a game. Like, we're playing a prank on you. We're getting back on the road and we're going to be home soon."
What?
At 1:33 p.m., two drivers frantically dial 911 after spotting a red minivan veering onto the northbound exit ramp of the highway. The end of that ramp, where it meets the expressway, has clear signs saying, "Do not enter," and "one way." Just a minute later, 4 more 911 calls come in from other drivers who report that a vehicle is going the wrong way on the highway, speeding about 80 miles per hour. It is a minivan, and it's clear that there are several children inside. So Diane is heading southbound on, like, going northbound on the highway. She's going in the wrong direction.
Right.
So she travels about 1.7 miles before she collides head on with a Chevy Trailblazer. At the time of the collision, she was traveling at roughly 85 miles per hour.
Oh my God.
So a driver on the highway pulled over. He was actually an off-duty first responder. He runs over to the wreck and he sees absolute carnage. So first he approaches the Trailblazer, and inside were 41-year-old Guy Bastardi, his 81-year-old father, Michael Bastardi, and 74-year-old Dan Longo. They were all deceased. They died on impact. He then made his way to the crumpled remains of the minivan, where he found the bodies of Diane, her 3 nieces, and her daughter. They also all died on impact. So he attempted to try to pull the girls from the minivan before he realized that they were deceased. They were all kind of like piled on top of each other. But in doing that, he found Diane's son, Brian, who was trapped under his cousin's bodies, and he was alive. So the bodies of his cousins actually cushioned the impact and ultimately saved his life.
I wish you could see my face. My jaw is on the ground.
So there were 9 people who were involved in the accident, and 8 of them were killed.
Oh.
So I'm gonna send you some photos of the wreck here. Give me just a second.
I did not see that coming.
So the first photo is the van, what it looked like, and then the second one is what it looked like after the crash.
Wow, you can't even tell what color it was because it caught on fire.
It's just completely destroyed. And then the Trailblazer
wow.
is next. Yeah.
Oh my God. I miss something? Like, how did we get to mom of the year to talking crazy on the side of the road, sick, to you
She
know,
drove in the
into
wrong direction and hit a car head on. Yeah, I mean, and we're about to get into that. Um,
okay.
but yeah, it's just absolutely devastating. Um,
Absolutely
it's
bonkers.
crazy. It is bonkers. It's crazy. They had a fun camping weekend, and then unfortunately this is how it ended.
And then the boy who survived, like, talk about trauma. Jeez.
Yeah, so he was unconscious, but because he had suffered some head trauma, obviously. But he just had a few broken bones as well as the head trauma. Um, but yeah, he survived that crash. I can't imagine, like I can't imagine like what his memories must be if he has any from this day, from this occurrence. Like it's terrible.
Yeah. Scary.
So let's get into the aftermath of the crash. So this is such a horrific crime, and it attracted national attention. And much like we're thinking right now, a lot of people are wondering why. How did this happen? She was a seemingly normal woman. She was a great mom. She was a hardworking professional. And she just drove her car the wrong way on the highway for seemingly no reason at all. So this crash was ultimately ruled as a homicide. People were killed in this crash because of Diane's negligent driving and because of the suspicion that she was under the influence when the accident occurred.
Oh.
A toxicology report from the Westchester County Medical Examiners, which was released on August 4th, showed that Diane had a blood alcohol content of 0.19%.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So keep in mind, in New York, the legal limit for driving is 0.08%.
Jeez.
So that's like 10 shots of vodka. Yeah. And at the scene of the accident, they found a handle of Absolute vodka under the driver's seat. Now, her husband, Daniel, he claims that they had taken the bottle with them on their camping trip and that the four adults had had a few drinks. Diane was not really a big drinker, so she actually didn't drink that much, which is why this was just such an odd occurrence, such a surprise to them. Now, additionally, the report noted that she had very high levels of THC, which is the main component of marijuana, in her system as well. Now, Daniel stated that his wife didn't use hard drugs, but he admitted to investigators that she smoked marijuana regularly. So she was a regular smoker. And this was because it helped with her insomnia. So it's like the presence of the THC in her system didn't necessarily mean that she was like smoking and driving. It could have
Gotcha.
just been residual.
Gotcha.
So Diane was getting absolutely dragged in the media. A lot of people were calling her a monster. Like, how could she get this drunk and, essentially kill her nieces, one of her kids, and three innocent people? And so to provide some sort of a defense for her, Daniel and his lawyer, they kind of theorized that she was driving erratically because of a sudden medical issue. Maybe she had like a stroke. She'd apparently been overweight for most of her life, and she had had diabetes. So that could have been a factor. They also pointed out that she had this abscess in her mouth for a couple weeks before she died. She actually had an appointment with an endodontist that was coming up, and it was causing her immense pain. So maybe that could have like altered her consciousness. But I was thinking like maybe, she was using, you know, alcohol or whatever to kind of self-medicate.
To numb the pain.
Knows. Yeah. But an autopsy was done on Diane, and she did not have a stroke, an aneurysm, or a heart attack.
She was just wasted.
She was just wasted. She was schnockered.
My favorite word.
So again, they are ripping Diane apart. Her personal life, her integrity. But what I thought was very interesting was that her biggest defenders in the media were her brother and sister-in-law, the ones whose kids that were killed in the accident. Yeah.
I want to take back everything I said about Diane, okay?
Why? What's going on now? You think she's a monster? You changed your mind?
I changed my mind. I'm with the masses.
Okay, all right. Yeah, but they're her biggest defenders in the media. They're really sticking up for her despite the fact that she essentially disrupted their entire lives, causing them immense heartbreak. But I did want to add something really awesome here. Warren and Jackie ended up having another child after the accident. They had a girl, and they named her Casey, as kind of like an acronym of her older sisters' names. They were Katie, Allison, and Emma. And so their Casey spells out. Anyways, I thought that was really neat.
Kind of dark. I don't know about that, but I guess.
I think it's kind of sweet. It's a way to acknowledge them and, I don't know, to remember them.
It is sweet. It's just a lot. I don't know. That person has to live with that name for the rest of her life.
Right, that's true. But they also started the Hance Family Foundation, which is a program that helps grade school age children develop self-esteem. So that's really sweet as well. Now, in 2011, the family participated in an HBO documentary about the case, and all of the money that they received from it, they put it in a trust for Brian, who was the only survivor of the crash. And lastly, the final outcome of this event that I wanted to touch on is that in late 2009, the state of New York put the Child Passenger Protection Act into place. So this law makes it a felony to drive under the influence if there is a passenger under the age of 16 in the car. So that's pretty awesome. I always like whenever we have a story and they're able to advocate for putting a law in effect that can protect other people. I feel like that's a really cool thing.
Yeah.
But this is kind of where this story ends. And I want to ask you, what do you think was wrong with Aunt Diane?
Obviously, her kids said she was talking crazy, not making any sense because she was drunk. So who knows what she was saying. I'm curious about Brian and like how he's doing in life and what he's up to. But as far as like what I think happened, I'm not sure. Like it seems like mom just needed to relax, and so started drinking a little bit. Even though she wasn't a big drinker, like I don't know, like was she just trying to blow off some steam and get away, and then it just got a little out of hand? But that just seems weird. She's not a big drinker, but then again, maybe because she's not experienced with drinking, she doesn't really know her limits.
Yeah,
But
exactly. And maybe she did smoke a little bit and then
but
she
either
drank
way, I
and
mean,
she
either
didn't have
way, like
experience with that.
you would think that she obviously seems like a very capable woman, would be in the right state of, in the right mind to just be like, look, I'm drinking. Maybe I wasn't drunk when I left, but now I'm wasted. Like, and I have these kids in the van. Like, I
Yeah.
shouldn't drive. So ultimately, I do think she had a death wish. Like, I ultimately
You
basically,
think so? Really?
yeah, I think it just seems too like, okay, if they would, the alcohol content was so dramatic. So it seems like she was trying to
Insane.
poison herself and just go out. But like, I know there's no evidence alluding to that at all. But I mean, my guess is only as good as the next person, since we don't really know what happened. But I feel like she did it on purpose. She got
There is
she had a plan and got stupid drunk because it'd be easier for her to kind of go through with it. I don't know.
No, yeah. So there were, because like I mentioned, there were a lot of witnesses who dialed 911 once she started going in the wrong direction. And like cars were honking at her, like obviously trying to get her attention. And they say that she was just stone faced,
Yeah,
staring straight ahead, locked in, just driving forward.
yeah, which is weird.
Super
So yeah,
weird. It's very troubling. Super, super troubling. I feel because like growing up as a kid, like we camped a lot. My mom took me camping a lot. And I feel like this is a I mean, not exactly like this, but it's just so sad to think like these kids, like they're playing with their cousins, they're having a good day, and then ultimately they're victims of a horrific car crash, and that they were so terrified on the phone leading up to it. Like, it's just so absolutely heartbreaking.
and they love and trust the person in that driver's seat. That's also
Absolutely. They love her. She's like their second mom. And then
yeah,
also for the brother and the sister-in-law, like this is your best friend, it's your sister, and you still love them, but it's like a super complex, how do you feel about that? It's crazy.
yeah, wild story, and I'm not familiar with it actually.
Oh, really? It was when the documentary came out. It's a super good documentary. We should watch it. It's very good. But it was pretty bumping, especially if you were into the true crime, like your girl Hugh.
What was it called on HBO?
It's called There's Something Wrong with Aunt Diane.
Oh dang, that's what I was gonna name the episode.
I mean, you could, but I think HBO's gonna clock us.
If HBO reaches out to us, that's a good thing.
Hell yeah, maybe they can sponsor us.
That's how we're gonna get to the top. We're just gonna plagiarize everything.
Rip off, because the other one, never mind, don't add that in here. Don't add that in. Cut.
All right,
Cut.
wrap this up, dog. Spurs game.
Let's
5 minutes.
wrap it up, Rachel.
Is that a Friends reference?
No, it's a house party reference.
Babe, nobody knows what house party is, babe.
But we do, and that's all that matters. That's all we have for you today. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you on the next one.
Later, y'all, and go Spurs, go.
Go Spurs, go! All right, bye-bye.